Thanks for tuning in to this Rutgers report on Prime Sports Network. It's been a little bit over a month, I believe, since our last venture down Rutgers Football Alley, and it's not that it's coming off a win and hey, everything's going great. We just figured this was a really good time. As you see, we've kind of added a little bit more to our template here. We've got some new stuff that we've been thinking about. That's the reason that we haven't produced a report in a while. The other reason is because it's a couple things, okay? And this is real serious. This is really serious. It's very hard to break down Rutgers football right now with the offense being the way that the offense is, or at least even was. It's just not very pretty football. It's not very easy to discuss and break down and analyze and all that stuff. What do you do? And I don't want to sit here and bash the team every week. The other thing, it's very hard to find some really good analysts to help me out. I can do this all the time, but I'm sure you guys want to hear other opinions, so there's that. There's also an issue of time. There's a lot of time and effort that goes into having to make sure, hey, watch a game. Are we thinking about maybe in the future reacting to games like I do with the Jets? That's definitely something that we're thinking about. And what about after football season? Because we're big Rutgers basketball fans. Well, how do we continue that? So I don't know if you've noticed on the channel, but we've imported this new concept because we are monetized. YouTube has a bunch of ways that channels like ours can raise revenue. The thanks icon on the bottom of the video is one of those, and that is how we've been working at this point in time. So we've already received donations from other shows and other reports, and I'm just going to lay it out there. Bottom line, I can really put in a lot of time and effort into Rutgers football and basketball coverage. I'm still not going to ever be the type of insider, like say a Richie Schneiderite it does on a full-time basis, or a professional New York Post writer like Ryan Dunleavy, former Rutgers grad. So I'm not gonna. There's big differences, and there's a lot of other Rutgers guys that are doing other shows and other reports on other websites, and so there's a lot out there. My point is that if I'm going to do this and put in the time and effort, I got to know what you guys, the interest level, and the only real way that I'm going to know that is through the donations. And I'm not sitting here and telling you, hey, I'm going to hold your, ransom and I need to raise this amount. No, there's no set figure. It's just that if there is an interest, you guys really want me to, at the end of every Rutgers football game, and again, maybe we'll even get into reactions. And I'll tell you right now, the more donations we get on this Rutgers idea, the more time I'll put into projects like reaction videos, because it's a lot of time to do that when they don't provide the type of videos that the NFL does with the Jets and the condensed videos. I would have to actually do a full game kind of deal. And so that would be tricky. You're talking about me sitting in front of the camera watching a Rutgers football game with the way their offense has been going and talking about it for the length of the game, 4 hours. And then I got to go in and edit all that and so forth. There's a lot of time and effort. Point is if I know that there's a lot of interest in that, especially with the donations, I will do it. That's what this business is for me. It's where's the interest lie? Because this is also, we just started our 2020, if you can believe it, our 2023 NFL draft coverage. We just started it a couple weeks ago with Dave Syverston, who is the senior NFL draft scout for ourlads.com. Of course, Ourlads, as you know, they are one of our main partners, one of our main clients, whichever way you want to spit it out. That's the deal. We work hand in hand with our lads here. Same thing now recently with Playbook Sports. But just getting back to our lads, fact is it's about scouting. And this is a perfect time, I thought, and Dave thought, to kind of get that going, which is what we've done. So we already started with quarterback, running back, receiver. Tomorrow, matter of fact, we're going on Friday. I'm recording this on a Thursday. Tomorrow, we're going to get into the tight end position and the offensive line position. And then we're going to go into defense and so forth in the coming weeks. And then we're going to do it all over again, because we're just kind of putting out some early releases on what's going on as far as early rankings and so forth. And we're going to just hammer away at NFL draft coverage for the next 6 months. Point being that there's a lot of work that we're doing there. And then we're going to gear up for the golf season in January. We've got NASCAR, F1, IndyCar beginning again next season. Just basically February when NASCAR starts. We're going to be doing heavy college basketball. That's what I said. With Rutgers, I'd love to do Rutgers content for basketball. Follow that through, hopefully to a third straight tournament. Wouldn't that be awesome? Which, by the way, I do believe, and I had a feeling until I started watching them play, and now it's been cemented. I actually believe this Rutgers basketball team is going to be better than the ones we just had over the last couple of years. I think we're going to be a better overall team, believe it or not, without two of our all-time superstars who just left the program last year. But that's what you want to see, isn't it? So I'm excited about basketball, and I'm not going to not talk college basketball. I'm going to, just like we've been talking football with Rutgers. But if it's going to be a full-time thing, and by the way, if I do get the proper coverage, traffic, subscriptions, and donations regarding a Rutgers content-driven, 8 months, 10 months out of the year kind of deal between football and basketball, then I'm going to be bringing in a whole bunch of different guests as much as possible. Won't be full-time, but I'll be bringing in as many different guests as I can bring on this program without a lack of trying. Trust me. For some reason, I don't have a guest on a particular week. It ain't my fault. It's because I have just tried and tried and tried. And then you got opponents, so we can bring up the opposition, but writers and so forth. But bottom line is, really, it's about Rutgers athletics, mainly football and basketball, that I'm talking about here. All right, that's out of the way. Now, the rest of the season for Rutgers is at least promising for one reason, and I know you know what that reason is. It's that dude right there, Gavin Wimsatt. We've been asking for that decision by Schiano, as you know, all season. And look, I'm glad it's, in a way, I'm not glad somebody got fired, but if it took Sean Gleason to get fired to make that move, awesome, terrific, because we wanted Gavin. Now, maybe his injury, the Temple injury, maybe he wasn't as ready early in the season. Okay, whatever. And maybe Sean Gleason was a big part of that. How? I'm not going to get into, but whatever. The fact is, Wimsatt is now healthy. There is a new coordinator, a new direction. And since then, Gavin Wimsatt was named starter, not just for a week, but he's the man now. And that's all we've ever wanted, is to get Gavin Wimsatt out there so we would know what we have. Is he capable of being a Power 5 college football starting quarterback? Not FBS, Power 5. And up until the last time we talked, for me, as you know, is I don't see anything that leads me to believe that's the case. Nothing. I know he's got the arm strength. I know he has enough athleticism for the position. Okay. I know he was, ranked high coming out of high school. That's nice. You know how many of those guys don't make it? More than make it. And I saw nothing that led me to believe that he was going to turn into a competent, remember, I'm not asking for a superstar here. None of us are, I think, a competent starting quarterback in a Big Ten, for a Big Ten football school. Okay. Now, We've watched him play for the last few weeks. Has he lit it up? 400-yard games, 5 touchdowns, all that kind. Of course not. And I don't know how much of that is Gavin, how much of that is the talent that's surrounding Gavin. But what I know now, compared to what I knew the last time I did a video, is that I have now, I feel like the way I felt when Gavin threw that big pass coming off the bench last year on that 4th down to solidify a football game, a winning football game. And just that feeling of, hey, wait, I know it was only one pass, but under that scenario, that was pretty cool. We got something here, maybe we got something here. That's how I feel now, is that maybe we got something here, maybe. But there's a lot more room for growth, a tremendous amount more. I see what you guys see. He can roll out. He can throw the ball on a dime with good velocity in a good spot. And I actually like the fact that when he misses high. That's better for interceptions. Miss high. Get not over the middle. I want you missing high over the middle. On the corners, I'm okay if you're going to miss high. Those kind of passes. There is a lot of development that still needs to be done here. Okay, we all know that. Now, what about the talent around him? Yes, we need more talent. Okay, now we hear good things about, okay, we've got some reinforcements coming, some recruits and so forth. It's been a few years, hasn't it? The last 2 or 3 recruiting cycles that have pretty much given this football program nothing when it comes to wide receivers or even the type of tight ends in this cycle that we go, wow, we've got something. It's coming down. Here we go. And it works. Oh, he's not, the stats aren't there, but you can see it. No, I don't see anything. I mean, really, if you look at it, who is it? I think there's only one, I would say, one player. I'm looking at the receivers in the beginning of the season when we went over. I took my notes in the beginning of the season. And, Konopka, the young tight end, I thought he had the goods. That's the type of kid that I was like, hey, watch that kid in a couple of years. He's not developing. Not that I know of. And then the receiver situation, remember everybody was so giddy about Isaiah Washington. Oh, what a catch in the spring game. I mean, that hasn't worked out. Shaheem Jones, I told you last year. I told you this year what he is, and he just is what he is. He's just a decent role player. And then you've got the Brandon Sanders and the Marion Brown, and it's okay. Well, I'm not, what's going on? I'm not seeing anything. Matter of fact, the only guy that has produced for us, and I'm not talking, well, we have to give props, no doubt, to not, of course, out of the 2 transfers, Ty Harris, because that was a disaster. Sean Ryan, though, has really, without Sean Ryan, I'm not sure where Gavin Wimsatt would be right now. He's definitely been the best one. He's been clearly the number 1 receiver. And just taking a look, he does, I believe, have at least 1 more year of eligibility. He's not ready to be drafted. Kid's not going to be drafted if he comes out this year. So I certainly hope, and there's a ton of guys that when they're eligible and they've been in college for about 4 years, they're like, I think I'm ready for the next step. I hope he knows what he's doing. And if he wants to get to the next level, hopefully financially he's capable. Come back for the next final season. You're going to get a better Gavin Wimsatt. You're going to still be the number 1 guy more than likely. And then your draft stock's going to only improve. So I certainly hope he comes back. And Chris Long has been the only young receiver that has actually shown us glimpses of, hey, okay, But keeping in mind that we're not looking at the next, Bo Melton. So he's not that kind of guy. But maybe he could be the next Sean Ryan. Maybe that's what he can aspire to. So, and Johnny Lang will be back again, unless Johnny Langan again. I've been doing this long enough. I've been here long enough. It's time to move on. I still think, and I said at the beginning of the last year, that Johnny Langan, and now if Gavin solidifies himself as the starter week 1 next year, there's going to be no need for gimmicks. And if you want to put the gimmicks thing in, put Rochelle in. Rochelle is fine in the gimmick role, right? Put him in that as Wildcat. But put Johnny Langan as a tight end. And that's it. And give him the opportunity next season, if he wants to come back next season, to just play full-time tight end, and that'll help him out at the next level. But that's about it. I mean, Aaron Cruikshank, I believe his eligibility is done. I don't know if the injury helped him out with that, but I believe his eligibility is done. And look, the reinforcements need to come from within. And I know we've got a really nice recruit coming from Florida, but he's a freshman. I will say this, though. If you hear really positive things about, which we have, about this kid, this wide receiver for next season, and he's as good as people say he might be able, and I'm not saying, he's 5-star, but if he's good as everybody believes he is, then I think that on this team, he might be able to play right away. Okay, so I am going to dream and hope that that's the case. Otherwise, unless there's a bunch of stuff going behind the scenes regarding, hey, next year, I know you don't see it, but some of these young guys are going to be ready to develop and play next year. Fine. But I think they're going to have to do exactly what they did last year. Now, like I said, I hope Ryan comes back, but even if he does, they have to go back into the portal and try to get another receiver. Just one. Don't have to get two. Just one guy. But and I understand what they're trying to do recruiting wise, as far as it's about defense, and you have to build up that front seven. Well, really got to build up the entire defense. Schiano, and I trust he will do that and continue to do a good job with that. And on offense, the primary thing now that you would hope that you've got your quarterback for the next 2 to 3 seasons after this season is that you've got to build the offensive line. That's number 2. And they did a much better job going out there and bringing in these new guys along the offensive line. And let's keep in mind, now Jacob Allen will be a second-year guy next year. I want to see him compete for starting time. Remember, he's a big deal. So Mr. Big Deal needs to go out there, and after a full season of conditioning, proper weight training and so forth, like I just said, if he's the real deal on this team, he needs to play. Now, I don't know whether or not I'm talking about full-time, or at least he's got to get out there and play part-time. And I know there's some other young offensive linemen just like Allen that are right there. That matter of fact, I think I even write some of them down here from earlier this season. Let's see. No, not really. But I know there are a few of them, and we'll have more than enough time, and we're still going to talk about this stuff, whether I do this full-time or not. But there's still a number of intriguing offensive linemen that they brought into last year's class, this past year's class, that I think could have an opportunity to compete for playing time. And I do believe they're heading in the right direction there. And look, how can you not be excited about what Samuel Brown brought to the table until his injury? So that's really exciting. I think they're in excellent shape in the backfield. I don't think there's anything to worry about there. But what the team needs to do a much better job of is recruiting the wide receiver position. Every year we see look at all these 3-star wide receivers, and most of them are from the Jersey area. These 3-star guys, and then they talk about, look at what he can do, and look at his stats, and this guy's got a lot of promise and so forth. And it's like 95% of them don't turn out. So they got to do a better job of recruiting these wide receivers, a much better job. It's time. It is legitimately time now. Okay, because this program, Greg's been back now for a few seasons. It is time for us to expect that Rutgers should be able to recruit without a doubt a ranking inside the top 40. And I think perennially they need to be in the top 30. I don't know when they get that first time, a couple years from now, next year. But once they get that first top 30, top 35 recruiting ranking, that's it. I just that should be a given every year, because there's and I know the NIL, it's an issue. We've been behind. Rutgers has been behind in that, and I get it, and that's a problem. Remember, we lost that kid to Texas A&M because of what happened. How do you think he's feeling now about what's going on at A&M? How do you think all those guys that took the money went to A&M? Boy, they're playing good football down at A&M now. A&M, aren't they? Don't be surprised if some of those kids that we lost because of NILs come back to play for Rutgers in the next year or two, and maybe when they're ready too. They can hang out on the bench for a couple of years with those programs, and then when they're ready to play for their final 3 seasons, they can come back to us. So, look, I this is the reason why I want to be able to talk to some of the experts about what's going on with the Rutgers recruiting and the guys that didn't play this season that we should expect next season, and what's on tap recruiting wise for this cycle and so forth. There's a lot to talk about there. As far as what we're doing this season, the Michigan State game pretty much ended our realistic chances of going to a bowl game. So unless we pull off the upset of upsets on Saturday, there'll be no bowl this season for Rutgers. And I just leave it at that, because obviously if they pull off the upset of upsets against Penn State, then they have a chance to beat Maryland. But it's not looking good. It's looking like there's a possibility Rutgers might end their season on a 5-game losing streak. And it is what it is, because I said this when we last spoke. Don't really care about all that. What I care about, because remember, I think the only thing I cared about as far as the bowl season were the extra practices. That's it, and how it might also help recruiting. That's all. Didn't care about the festivities of a bowl. Didn't care about, oh, look, my team's Rutgers were in a bowl. We'll get to that. That time will come. It was more important to get Wimsatt in there and get him experience, and that's exactly what happened. And now I've got that little bit of feeling again that, you know what, maybe Gavin is going to be our guy. How good will Gavin be? There's still a lot of time to debate that. And I'll tell you right now, though, next year will be the year. I don't care what anybody says, okay? Next year will have to be the year. I'm not saying Gavin needs to come out next year and be a top 20 ranked college football quarterback. I'm not saying that. But next year's got to be the year that Gavin comes off the bench, no injuries. When I'm talking about off the bench, first game, comes onto the football field as the starter. He's the guy. He doesn't miss hardly any time during the season. None of that nonsense. Plays all season. And he goes out there. And then when we play these teams, the ones that we played this year and lost, like the Nebraskas of the world, we will win those games now because we will have a better quarterback. And Gavin will be that type of quarterback. Gavin will be that type of quarterback that will be better than 3 or 4 teams we play and their quarterbacks. That's all it'll take. And then that'll cement victories for us and put us in a position so we win the winnable games because we have the better quarterback. Everything else, we know that'll come with it. The defense, the special teams, the coaching, and so forth. We're confident about that. And then we can say, hey, we've got ourselves a quarterback. Then in 2024, we could think about all sorts of cool stuff, including not only the program, but also for Gavin. And look what we might have here. Maybe we got a quarterback that'll get drafted in the NFL. Maybe we could, knock off a couple of really good football teams. And Gavin can leave the program in much better shape than when he entered it. That's the projection that I'm hoping for, and I think is a realistic dream, forecast, if you want to call it that. And I'm glad that we're doing it. And I know it means we've had to lose games. That's okay. All right, that's okay. Because at least Gavin's out there getting experience, putting himself in a position now where he doesn't need any more experience starting next season. Now Go out there and play football and be the guy you were meant to be. Okay. And I'm glad that's the case right now. I will finish with this, though. I still want a transfer to come in here next year. Don't need a guy that's going to ruffle feathers and be, all right, I'm coming in there to start to compete with Gavin, because that wouldn't be the case anyway. But coach has got to find a quarterback in the portal. I tell you right now, there's going to be one of two types of transfers he needs to look at the quarterback position. He needs to look at somebody that is young, maybe even younger than Wimsatt, or just as young, who has maybe a year or two of extra eligibility left in Wimsatt. Somebody that might have, been a freshman this season somewhere. Has a whole college career ahead of him. Didn't like where he went. He's getting blocked, that kind of thing. Let me come here. Let me come back home if that's the case. Whatever. That kind of guy. But that guy's not going to beat out Wimsatt. Fine. But hopefully that guy will be competent enough, even if he's young, talented enough that if something happens to Wimsatt, he can come in and actually play pretty decently. The second guy, and the guy that, this is just for next season, that is important, is the veteran transfer. The guy that has between 1 to 2 years of eligibility remaining. The guy that knows he's not going to get any playing time where he is. Let's say he's on a Power 5 school. Maybe he's the third string quarterback for a good program, and he'll elevate to a second string with Rutgers. One of those guys. Or it could be somebody that's pretty talented. Maybe he might even be a good number 2 in a group of 5 that has a couple years of eligibility left. That's just for next year. Okay. But what does have to happen the year after is that the recruiting for the quarterback of, say, 2025, whatever it may be, like the year before Wimsatt leaves, whatever coach believes that'll be, that's the year that they need to bring in their next 4-star quarterback, their next starter. And that's also a year that I think that they shouldn't get a little complacent and look at the transfer portal again and bring in somebody. Maybe it's just a 1-year rental. Okay. Somebody that, and they're out there. Maybe it's a graduate transfer. Okay. And instead of sitting on a bench as a third string somewhere, and I'm never going to get playing time, and I've had some starting experience. Hey, you know what? All right. I'll be the backup at Rutgers for a year. These are all the things anyway that we're going to be talking about in the coming months and the next year or so, especially between now and the beginning of next season. Bottom line is we're in much better shape since the last time I did one of these videos. That's because Gavin's playing, and Gavin is starting to show glimpses of the quarterback that we all felt was there when he was signed, and what we saw in that big 4th down pass. And we were like, oh, maybe we got something. So that's the feeling. Not going to get overly optimistic at this point, though, because I want to continue to see the improvement. Not to say that I don't believe it's going to happen, but, let's just stay healthy. That's important. Number one, stay healthy, because who knows who the offensive coordinator is going to be next year as well. Who knows? Maybe Shiano saves money that he can use elsewhere, and Nunzio comes back as the offensive coordinator again. I don't know. I will tell you, though, if you can go out there and you can get a proven coordinator, somebody that, I know people have talked about the Shoops of the world, and I can even give you an example of the guy Anai. I'm not saying he's coming to Rutgers, but here's a guy that was the offensive coordinator of Virginia, and I remember seeing Brennan Armstrong when he first was starting to play at Virginia, his first few games, and he was just really bad looking quarterback, as far as he just had a really bad looking kind of delivery, and he just looked like, the arm strength wasn't there. He was athletic, but he just didn't look very good. But by the end of the season, he was like one of the best quarterbacks in the ACC. Anai leaves Virginia this past offseason, gets a job at Syracuse. New coaching staff comes in at Virginia. All of a sudden, Syracuse, as you know, doing nothing under Babers there for a while. And I comes over there, and the offense just with Schaefer, which is a very average. He is the most average Power 5 quarterback you can imagine. Who, by the way, if he was our quarterback at Rutgers, we would already be bowl eligible as well. But just an average quarterback, okay? More athlete than passer. But all of a sudden, that offense humming. What a difference from last year to this year. And more importantly, what was going on in Virginia this year when he left? Ooh, that offense went from scoring like 30, 40 points a game under Armstrong, and Armstrong was being looked at as like a sleeper NFL draft pick. You look at Virginia this season, Armstrong looks like the guy that I saw when he first started playing. And they're one of the worst offenses in college football. My point, you can get a guy like that, a difference maker as a coach, you go get him. Okay? And I'm sure coach is going to try. I know we'll try hard, bring one of those guys in. Not trying to slam Nunzio. All I'm trying to say, I'm just trying to be real here. All right? And this isn't about loyalty or about playing nice. I mean, this is everybody's job's on the lines. Just like coach, I got to win. Our offense has got to do something here. And if I can get a guy who has a proven track record, and I got to pay him the way I paid Gleason, I got to bring him in here. No hard feelings, Nunzio. You'll still have a job here, just like you had before you got bumped up to coordinator. But then, but if you don't find anybody, you got Nunzio. And I will believe that if coach feels that Nunzio is capable of handling the offense, and he's the one that's been there all along with Gavin and his development, fine, I'm okay there. But that's just the last thing, is that's something that they're going to have to do and really think hard about, is what to do also at coordinator. Because I really feel confident with every aspect of the way that coach is building this program. You know, getting bigger offensive linemen, Big Ten guys. I know what he'll do on defense. I know what he'll do on special teams. I've seen this before. I was there through it all before. I know a lot of you guys weren't. A lot of you younger fans just weren't old enough. I went through it. I know I'm as confident as I ever have been with coach that he is going to get this program to and he's going to build it the way that he built it before with even better players. Because he'll have that opportunity now that he's in the Big Ten. All of that, I know. But, again, can he get the quarterback position right? Can he find an offensive coordinator and not somebody? Because it was nice to have Gleason for more than a year. But that's, you got to, I'm uninterested in a coordinator by hire. I'm interested in him finding a guy that can be the coordinator and stick around for a few years. Doesn't have to stick around for 5, but just give us at least, 3 years maybe if you can, if you're a quality guy, and we'll pay you. And we're in the Big Ten, and where else are you going to go unless you get a head coaching job or an offensive coordinator job at the next level in the NFL? We'll pay you. You'll be the guy. So that's what has to happen. Got to get that coordinator position right. Got to get that quarterback position right. I hope the quarterback position, and I feel confident now a lot more than I did, as you know, since our last video, that Gavin could be that guy now. And it's up to now what to do with that coordinator position. There's going to be a lot to talk about as far as Rutgers football and basketball. I didn't need to spend this half hour going over the games and what happened there and who did good there and what was critical things to talk about here. And it's just, I just think it's a waste of time. I really do. At least for this particular show, since I'm not going to be doing it every week again, unless you guys tell me that you want me to. And it needs to just be, like I said, more than subscriptions and likes and shares, which are all important, absolutely important. But if you guys really want me to, step up my game and do this on a more consistent basis, I hope you can see that the quality of program I can put together, if I can financially use part of my time to do it. And there's nothing that I'd like to do than to say, hey, I'm going to spend X amount of hours a week talking Rutgers football or basketball because I can afford to. Not that I would like more than to be able to do that. So, but you guys will dictate that. Anyway, I will be back. I don't know when. I tell you what, I promise you, if Rutgers upsets Penn State, I'll be back. I'll be back on Saturday if Rutgers upsets Penn State. One of these years is coming. Tony, it's coming. Probably not going to be this year, but it's coming. Give us another year or two. We're going to beat Penn State. And then when we beat them the next time, it's going to be a battle. We're going to start waging war with Penn State because that's how good we're going to get. But, hopefully it'll be here sooner than later because the Ohio State, that barometer is still way down the line. Michigan, I know we got beat up, but hey, we had them for a half. Hey, we had them in overtime a couple years ago. Hey, we probably should have beat them last year. So Michigan, we can beat Michigan. Tell you the truth, we've actually had a better chance of beating Michigan than Penn State recently. So I know we can catch Penn State. I just know it. Because if I don't think we can catch Penn State, then what are we doing here? So I know we can catch Penn State. And I know we can play with Michigan because we have played with Michigan. So we can do that. And it's going to be a lot of fun when we eventually get to that point where we can enter every season and go, hey, look at our schedule, and we can compete with 90% of the teams on that schedule. Right now, it's 50% we can compete with. But sometime soon, I hope next year, but I'm realistically looking at the 2024 season as the season where I might be able to say 80%. We'll see. I'm looking forward to it. And again, college basketball season has already begun. I'm excited about that. Big game coming up on Friday night. I'm recording this on Thursday, so that's tomorrow night against Temple because it's a road game. So we'll see. Because I know how we were last year. I know how we were with our two superstars last year and the last couple of years. Even though we were a tournament team, we'd go on the road and we'd play these. It didn't matter who we played. We play even, the beatable teams we should beat, like DePaul and such, and our so-called, superstars that we were always relying on. All of a sudden, you look at the box score, and we'd be losing to these teams, and they were like 4 points. Ron Harper Jr., 4 points, 5 points, 2 of 9 shooting, or something like that. And you're like, what is that? So I kind of feel better about this year's team that we're not going to be that Jekyll and Hyde. Okay, we're going to lose games. Of course, we're going to lose games, and we're going to probably lose a couple head scratchers along the way. But we were so inconsistent the last few years, and we were also ugly at times to watch too. But I just don't see that with this team. I think already from what I've seen, I think we're seeing the rest of the season. Meaning, I think we're going to be a lot more fun and enjoyable to watch. And even when we lose, I think we're going to be enjoyable to watch. So I'm looking forward to talking college basketball as well. We will do that one way or another. By the way, once we turn the clock in the calendar to 2023, once we get into January, we'll be talking a lot more college basketball as a whole on a national level with Mark Lawrence and the boys over at Playbook Experts. So I guarantee you that. So I'm looking forward to doing that as well. So that'll wrap it up. Big game against Penn State, final home game of the season. Good luck to Rutgers in that one. And I just hope that we can see more development from Gavin Wimsatt. And also, I'd like to be a little bit competitive. That would be nice. As far as by the way, with Corsac, come on, give that man a hand. It was just, boy, were we spoiled with that kid. Spoiled. As a Jet fan, I'm as much as I think Braden Mann is a decent enough guy to have around, and he can do, he had a nice little onside kick that helped us against Cleveland. If you're trying to cement your entire team, kicker, punter, and so forth, just don't think Braden Mann's that guy just yet. So you know what? I know, use up a draft pick, do it, because Adam Corsac's going to be drafted. And I think he's going to be drafted. I bet you he's drafted 5th round is the latest I think he gets drafted. I think he could be a 4th round guy. I really do, because he is a weapon. And I would love Adam Corsac to be punting for the Jets in 2023. And I definitely don't want to see him in the AFC East. All right. I'm out of here. We'll see you again soon. Thanks for watching. Comment section. I went over the whole thing in the beginning of the show, so I don't really have to talk more about that. But anyway, we'll talk again sometime soon. When that is, I don't know. But I'm looking forward to it.